In the long, cruel history of human warfare, we've seen kings betrayed, empires burned, entire cities starved into silence. But even among these horrors, one act of revenge stands above the rest. A punishment so brutal, so inhuman that even Rome, the empire of crucifixions and lions, tried to bury it. This is the true story of a general who was forced to eat his own sons and the woman who made him do it. It happened not on Roman soil, but deep in the eastern deserts during the height of Roman expansion. The general, a war-hardened man named Lucius Fabius Varro, a name once feared across 3 continents. But it wasn't in battle that he met his ruin. It was in captivity, at the hands of a queen, and it ended with a banquet with a main course. Was his legacy. Modern historians dismissed the tale for centuries. Too gruesome, too extreme, too poetic. But then, in 2014, a tablet was unearthed in the ruins of Palmyra. Its contents, a first-hand account, scratched and trembling Latin, by a man who claimed to have watched the feast. We now know it wasn't myth. It was a message. You took our sons, so we fed you yours. This isn't a tale of war. It's a tale of vengeance, of motherhood, of legacy, and of the night one man lost everything, bite by bite. Lucius Fabius Varro was not born to power. He earned it in the blood of others, from Germania to Numidia. He built a career of scorched earth campaigns and iron-fisted discipline. But it was in Syria where he became infamous, not for conquest, but for cruelty. In 165 CE, Varro was sent east to suppress a rebellion near the desert borderlands. A minor province, a minor queen, a message was all Rome wanted. But Varro delivered a massacre. The city of Tel Zara fell in 3 days. Its gates were burned, its wells poisoned, and every male over the age of 12 crucified and rose outside the city walls. Her name was Ashera, daughter of spice merchants, wife of a rebel prince, mother of 2 boys. And when Varro took Tel Zara, he didn't know she was still inside the citadel, watching him from behind a tapestry, listening to him order her husband's execution. Holding her sons and her breath, she escaped that night, carrying nothing but grief and a promise. For 7 years, Ashera vanished into the eastern sands. Some said she died. Others claimed she became a priestess of the old gods, but in truth, she was building something. Allies, weapons, a trap. She didn't want to kill Varro. She wanted to make him feel everything she felt. And when the time came, she had the perfect bait. He thought he'd ended her story, but she was only on the first chapter. And when she returned, she didn't come with an army, she came with a table. 7 years after the massacre of Tel Zara, Lucius Varro was celebrated once more, but not in Rome. In Sharak, a borderland city-state that had declared sudden allegiance to the empire. The Queen of Sharak sent a formal invitation. A feast in Varro's honor, a symbol of peace. An end to rebellion. He accepted and marched straight into the mouth of a ghost. The scroll bore the royal seal. The language was flawless Latin to the iron tongue of Rome. We offer wine in place of blood. We offer bread in place of ash. We offer tribute for past missteps. So our sons may never know the sword. Varro, older now and hungry for political legacy, agreed. He brought only his 2 sons, both military officers. And no weapons. No legion, just a father, eager to end a war. Sharak was magnificent. Its walls were tall, its people warm. Musicians played flutes older than Rome itself, and in the palace, beneath a ceiling painted with the gods of sand and fire, a feast was laid: boar, lamb, fig-stuffed birds, spiced wines from distant coasts. Varro laughed. drank, told war stories. His sons toasted with him, and then the queen entered. He did not recognize her. 7 years can soften a face, harden a heart, but when she lifted her veil, the cup fell from Varro's hand, Asherah, the woman he thought burned with Tel Zerah, the mother of the 2 boys he had hanged at sunrise. The doors slammed shut, the servants dropped their trays and drew blades, the wine was drugged, and Varro, mighty general of Rome, collapsed in his seat. Helpless, his sons, seated to either side, fell moments later. Asherah raised her hand, and a word. No speech, just a nod. The feast was about to begin. What happened next is recorded in 3 sources, 2 from Roman survivors, 1 from an anonymous scribe who served the queen. They all say the same thing. The main course was meat, tender, rich, slightly sweet, served with dates and bitter herbs. Varro was force-fed, bite by bite. Only when the bones were revealed did he understand. They were his son's bones. They had removed his tongue hours earlier. He could not scream. He could only shake. Asherah sat across from him, watching him chew, and when he swallowed the last bite, she said, "You called my sons necessary ends. Now they are yours." She didn't kill him. That would be too kind. Instead, she left him in the banquet hall bound, broken, silent, for 3 days. The table was never cleared, and the smell drove Varro mad. When the Romans found him weeks later, still alive, he had bitten off 3 of his fingers, trying to vomit out what he'd eaten. But it was too late. It was part of him now. He burned her city. He hanged her sons. He made a mother into a monster. But even monsters remember how to serve a meal. After the banquet, General Varro disappeared from the pages of Roman glory. No trial. No tribunal. No public disgrace. Just silence. His records were sealed. His honors revoked. His name forgotten. Not out of shame, out of fear, because those who heard the truth did not sleep. The 2 surviving Roman officers who retrieved Varro from Shark were silenced by the Senate. Their letters home were intercepted. Their families were moved. Their testimonies vanished. One tried to speak publicly. He was found dead in his bath. His tongue had been nailed to the wall. Above it, written in charcoal, "He feasts still." One physician, Marcus Aurelius Canthus, documented Varro's condition. He weeps without tears. He wrote, he gnaws at his own hands and begs for fire. Varro could no longer speak. But in his final days, he scratched one word again and again into the walls of his room. Fili, sons. He died on the winter solstice, 11 months after his return. His body was cremated, but the ashes would not burn clean. All statues of Varro were removed, his busts melted, his name chiseled out from stone, a senator whispered. "We do not erase him for dishonor. We erase him because he brings hunger," the official decree. Lucius Varro died on campaign. No known issue. No surviving family. But in private scrolls hidden in locked libraries was another note. He consumed his line. In 184 CE, a Roman playwright named Silanus staged a drama called The Mother's Table. It lasted 1 night. The plot followed a Roman general who dined unknowingly on his own sons. The audience gasped, but when the actor playing the general collapsed mid-scene, vomiting real blood, the Senate shut it down. Silanus was arrested. His script destroyed, but some say the final line of the play survived. "We are what we eat," and he ate memory itself. Rome erased him, but not because he failed, because he saw something no Roman should see, because he became a mirror of what war does not to enemies, but to fathers. Some stories fade, others evolve. What happened in that palace, what General Varro was forced to do, didn't just vanish when Rome tried to bury it. It mutated. Whispers became scripture. Pain became ritual. And in the corners of empire where shadows reign, a cult was born. They called him the Mouthless King. Decades after Varro's death, Roman deserters spoke of a hidden shrine near the ruins of Sharak, a stone room filled with mirrors, each one angled toward a single scorched chair. Food was placed on a plate before it, but no one ever touched it. One soldier wrote, "The food rots, the bones do not." He claimed he saw children in the mirrors, not his own, but children he remembered killing. In the underworld of ancient Syria, a secret play was performed each spring. The actors wore no masks, their mouths were sewn shut, the audience silent, always on the table before them. 3 loaves of bread, 2 cups of wine, 1 plate of ash. The ritual ended when the lead actor banged his head 3 times against the table, a symbol, they said, of a father who could not forget. But it wasn't just the general who was worshipped. Asherah, the woman who orchestrated it all, became something more than a queen to some. She was vengeance made flesh to others, a goddess of divine motherhood. She gave him what he gave her. 1 tablet reads, but she let him live to taste it. Followers of Asherah, called Mirranites, began to spread across the desert provinces. Their beliefs? Vengeance is sacred. Memory is punishment. And the greatest sin is to forget the face of your children. In certain desert towns, even by the 3rd century CE, there was a custom observed every equinox. A plate be left outside the home, covered with a cloth at sunrise. The plate would be empty, but beneath it, a single tooth, sometimes from a lamb, sometimes not. When asked, villagers would only say, "He's still hungry," but she decides what he eats. By 250 CE, Roman patrols near the Syrian frontier began hearing bells ringing in empty valleys, always at dusk, always 3 chimes, no bell towers, no towns, just sound. 1 legion followed the sound into the hills, none returned. But 2 weeks later, a farmer found a plate in his field, still warm, covered with black feathers and 3 teeth. In desperation, Rome issued an edict banning all references to Varro, Asherah, or Sharak. Every name was scrubbed, temples razed, plays outlawed, and yet shrines kept appearing, small stone altars, painted with a crown, and beneath it, a plate no offerings, just a phrase. His mouth is gone. Ours remain. Rome wanted to forget, but forgetting is a luxury the dead don't allow. They remembered and made sure we would too, because nothing leaves a stronger memory than what you're forced to swallow, especially when it once had your eyes. By 271 CE, the whispers had grown too loud, plates appearing on doorsteps, tooth offerings found on altars of Mars, soldiers deserting after hearing bells in the night, and always the name that should not have returned. Varro. Emperor Aurelian, hardened by war, ruled with an iron fist. He believed in order, discipline, empire, and he hated ghosts. So he made a decision. Wipe out the cult. Seal the records. Burn the shrines, but history has a taste for irony, because he didn't know. You can't bury a mouth that no longer speaks. The emperor launched a secret operation, code name Silentia. Its purpose? Locate and destroy every shrine tied to the Mouthless King. Erase Asherah's name from every scroll. Torture any Miranite followers into revealing the final temple's location. The first temple fell within weeks, its priests burned, its mirrors smashed, its sacred plate shattered and buried beneath hot tar. But before the last priest died, he whispered something chilling. He does not die. He digests. In the ruins of a temple near Damascus, soldiers found an ancient clay tablet beneath the altar. When decoded, it read, "The stomach is eternal, the taste never fades. One day, the eater shall be eaten." The soldiers laughed. 2 weeks later, every man from that expedition vanished in a dust storm in the middle of the imperial palace courtyard. Witnesses claimed the storm smelled of cooked meat. Aurelian, furious and obsessed, decided to see the last known shrine himself. His advisors begged him not to go. He silenced them all. Let gods tremble. I am emperor. He rode east with a small cohort and arrived at a sunken ruin in the Syrian desert. A circular chamber carved into the sand. A tea at center. A table, still set, still warm. The next morning, the chamber was empty. The guards were found 300 yards away, all missing their tongues, alive, but incapable of speech, the emperor. Gone. In his place, on the table. A half-eaten loaf, a silver crown with bite marks, a smear of blood shaped like a child's hand. Rome panicked. A new emperor was appointed. And a word of Aurelian's fate was ever made public, but a quiet decree was circulated to governors. No one shall speak the name of the eater. No one shall ask what became of the red-caped one, if the bells toll. Do not answer. And so began the second silence. Even today, near where that shrine once stood, travelers report strange sounds at night. Bells, cutlery scraping plates, a man weeping like a child. Satellite images reveal no structures. But in 2017, a German anthropologist captured a blurry photo of what appears to be a dining table set for one, in the middle of nowhere. You can erase a name, you can burn a temple, but if someone still remembers the taste, the eater returns, and this time, he'll be hungrier. Long after Rome fell, after emperors were dust, and their marble temples cracked into ruin, the curse lived on, not in stone, not in scrolls, but in blood, and in the 14th century, it returned quietly, at first beneath the skin, a sickness no one could name, but everyone remembered. They called it the Blood Plague. 1347. Northern Anatolia, a small village wakes to find its livestock dead, its wells filled with ash, and on the church altar, a plate, still warm, still clean, except for one thing. A child's molar, wrapped in lambskin. 3 days later, the village was gone. And no signs of fire. And no bodies, just plates, 13 of them, each with a single tooth. Survivors from neighboring towns described the same horrifying symptoms. Eyes turning glassy and gray, mouths bleeding from the inside out, an overwhelming urge to chew their own hands. Victims spoke in tongues literally, one monk recorded. They do not cry out in pain, they mumble in Latin, and none of them ever studied it. Double quotes. In some cases, victims screamed a single word before death. Filii, sons. In 1350, a traveling plague doctor named Johannes Wren documented an outbreak in a monastery. The monks had sealed themselves inside. When Wren broke through, he found the men seated at a long table dead. Each had bitten off their own tongue. Each held a silver fork. In the center of the table, a mirror angled down. I looked into it. Wren wrote, and saw children I never had, but somehow remembered. Wren disappeared 2 days later. In 1711, an English historian named Edmund Cade published a now-lost manuscript titled The Legacy of Varro, Hunger of the Bloodline. He argued the plague wasn't a disease. It was a memory, a curse passed down through certain families, tracing back to the legions who served under Varro. He claimed the mouthless king never died. His pain lived on in his bloodline, and the more you denied him, the louder he chewed. Cade's manuscript was burned. He was later found in a locked room, surrounded by empty plates. In one 15th century tale, the town of Carvan Hollow was struck by the plague rather than flee. The townsfolk embraced the curse. They held a ritual. Each family placed food on a silver tray. They ate in silence. And at the end of the meal, they removed one tooth from their youngest child and left it on the plate. The plague passed them by, But for centuries after, on the same day, the wind in Carven Hollow was said to sound like a man choking back sobs and chewing. You can't kill an idea, you can't uneat your own sons, and you cannot unbirth a curse. When it lives inside your mouth, the curse was never meant to stay in the past. Some say the mouthless king was erased, but you don't erase a story like his. You just serve it again, and in the strangest corners of the world, where shadows gather thick, and silence feels too loud. The plates are still appearing. 2011. A German archivist was sorting artifacts recovered from Ottoman ruins. She found a sealed crate labeled simply, "Do not open during Lent." Inside, a blackened wooden fork, a child's shoe, and a silver plate engraved with the image of a man in chains, his mouth missing. The archivist photographed the items. 2 days later, she suffered a psychotic break. Witnesses said she bit off part of her own tongue while shouting, "He still chews." In 2019, drone footage of the Syrian desert revealed a bizarre anomaly. A perfect circle carved into an exposed plateau. No structures, no roads, no vegetation. At its center, a single upright chair made of stone, facing a weathered table, and on the table, a mirror. Experts dismissed it as ancient ritual debris, but when the footage aired online, several viewers claimed they saw a reflection in the mirror, not of the drone, of a man in chains, seated across from nothing, and chewing. In 2021, a British journalist researching lost Roman legacies requested access to sealed Vatican archives. Within hours, his clearance was revoked. 3 days later, he posted one image to his personal blog before vanishing. A Latin scroll with only 3 words legible. Fili, mangiacavit, iterum, sons, he has eaten. Again. In rural Turkey, a lullaby is still whispered to children during eclipses. Translated, it says, "Hide your smile, hide your breath, mother's hungry. Father's deaf if the plate is clean by 3. You'll wake up inside the feast." The origin of this rhyme? Unknown, but children who sing it often place a coin or a tooth beneath their pillow that night. In 2007, a pathologist in Greece reported the death of a 42-year-old man found alone in his apartment. There were no wounds, and no poisons, and no drugs, but his jaw was shattered from the inside and his stomach contained something chilling. Cooked lamb, burnt herbs, 2 human teeth, not his own, and no family members were missing, and no suspects. Only one message scribbled on the wall above the body. Let him digest. In 2022, ham radio enthusiasts across Europe reported intercepting a strange broadcast. At exactly 3:33 a.m., a faint rhythmic chewing sound followed by a whisper. Fili, Fili, Fi-li, double quotes. No source was ever found, but in at least 3 separate reports, listeners described bleeding from their gums during the transmission. We still eat, we still forget, and that is the perfect condition for him to return. He doesn't knock, he doesn't speak, he just waits until you're quiet, and then he sets the table, for one, for you. You won't read about him in school books. There are no statues, and no epic poems, and no glowing marble busts, just a table. And a silence that chews. He has no name now, and no mouth, but once he was a man, a father, a general, a weapon, and then a warning, one that's been buried, but not forgotten. Every now and then, someone dreams of him, always the same dream. A table set for 3, 2 children smiling, 1 empty plate. You sit down, you lift your fork, you smile back, and just before you take the first bite, you see your own reflection, but your mouth is gone. Historians have tried to explain the story. They call it a moral myth, a parable of grief, a cautionary tale against war. But there are pieces they can't place, the teeth The whispers, the plates that keep reappearing even in modern homes, hospitals, museums, no invitation, no message, just a plate, and the scent of something just cooked. What was he really? A man? A monster? A memory made flesh? Maybe he became the thing we all fear most. The consequence of unthinkable violence, of rage that went too far, of a father who couldn't protect, and was made to taste that failure, bite by bite. They say the curse finds those who listen, that if you make it to the end of the story, if you hear the chewing, if you can imagine the plate, you're part of the meal now. Somewhere, a tooth will fall from your mouth tonight, it won't hurt. You won't even notice it at first, but when you wake, the plate will be clean, the mirror will be cracked, and something in your house will feel full. If you see the plate, don't eat, or worse, don't clean it.